the static clears. Unwanted brotherhood of tears. Grief can weigh us down alone, but here we find a common home. The voices speak to heart and soul. In darker times they make us whole. Through Jesus' light we find our way. In every night there comes a day. From shadows to the dawn we rise, hope reflected in our eyes.
Well, welcome to Unwanted Fraternity Podcast. I'm Jen Tonkinson, and I'm back again with my husband, Greg. And we're so glad you're joining us again on our podcast. Just want to give a quick shout out to the Herzog Foundation. We are so grateful to be partnering with this amazing organization. If you're a Christian educator, a parent, a Christian leader, and you're looking for more tools to help the younger generation go closer to Christ, I encourage you to go on their website. They have many events available for you, but they also have a large array of podcasts that you can listen to and gain just such great knowledge to help you grow this next generation closer to Christ. And that is at herzogfoundation.com/podcast. Well, Greg, we are back again with our deep dive into Jerry Sittser's book, A Grace Disguised. And we didn't get through all of chapter 4 last week when we talked. We got through just the concept of pain. The chapter is entitled The Silent Scream of Pain. And we kind of just worked through some different things like that and got through a little bit of denial of pain and how do you just even process that. But I think we ended with there is always hope in the Lord. And so I wanted to jump back into that chapter because there were a few more things that he talked about that I thought you could shed some light on since you had that personal experience of that. And so I think the one that we ended with was he had mentioned that he had also imagined having the power to live that tragic day over again, changing the sequence of events that led to the accident. So it was this if only idea. And so I wanted to have you talk a little bit about your own experience with that in losing Lee. And then I can talk about, going through the divorce and if I had done this and that kind of thing. So why don't you start for us?
So are you asking...
Did you do that?
Did I...
Which I know you did because you mentioned it last week.
Play the what if game?
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's natural. I don't know, quite honestly, of too many people that didn't do that haven't done that. I think that in our humanity, death, when you experience a loss, as Jerry says, catastrophic loss, especially if it involves a loss of life, there is a finality that it's almost inexplicable in terms of comprehending, but nonetheless real for you, that you sit in these moments of despair when you contemplate, I will never see that person again on earth. Mm-hmm. And ever, like, I'll get up tomorrow, they won't be there. I'll go to the restaurant we used to eat at, I'll never see them at that restaurant. I will go into my kids' rooms and scratch their back while they go to sleep. That person will never do that again. Like there is a heavy weight that if you haven't experienced it, absolutely you can sympathize. I just don't know if you can get to that moment of I get it, I understand it. And so those of us who have experienced it, it's so heavy, it's so burdensome that we look for outs. We look for find me another way because I can't do this tomorrow. I can't.
That makes sense.
I can't drive past a familiar spot and think we'll never experience that again. Not to mention, I can't look out into the years to come and all the experiences that I can predict will happen, birthdays, weddings, grandkids, whatever. Mm-hmm. and then again, juxtapose that with the reality of that person will never experience that. So you're doing that daily, hourly at times, and it becomes too much. It just becomes too much. So what does the mind do? What does the heart do? We look for outs. We look for off-ramps. And one of those is playing the what if game. One of those is, let me escape from reality by going into a space in my head, in my heart, that I kind of know isn't ever going to happen. But I need to just feel like, what if it did happen? And so yeah, in my case, Leanne was hit from behind, 2 miles from our house. She was at a stoplight. Kid was doing 75 in a 45, no brakes, hit her from behind, killed her instantly. Do you know how many times I've driven that route after she passed purposefully? How many times I decided her route from her workplace to our house, how many lights are from her workplace to our house, how fast you would need to be going to arrive at that street at that time, at that very second, to be the first car he would hit. Mm-hmm. And all that would need to have changed is one red light, one different street, 4 or 5 miles per hour, slower or faster, all of those variables. Right. And all of a sudden, she's coming home that night. And so I can't even calculate the colossal amount of time I've spent doing that. And to what end? To what point? Because I don't want people hearing that thinking, yeah, that sounds like a colossal waste of time, because reality is that would never have happened. You're never going to, reverse history. So why would you do that? I'm telling you, we do that, one, to escape our present pain, but also you would be surprised at where your head and heart go when you're in grief to that level. I never thought I would be asking questions that are somewhat nonsensical, but you end up doing that because your heart hurts so bad that you will do anything to avoid another day of playing those what if games. And so, like I've said at other times, not only is it an escape, but notice what you're bringing into the conversation. You're bringing in God's sovereignty. You're bringing in trusting in God. You're bringing in God's omnipotence. I mean, all of these things, because what you're really saying is, God, I think you got it wrong. That's really what your heart is crying out is, if we could just change this one variable, my wife would still be alive. In Jerry's case, his kid, his wife, his mom would still be alive, right? His daughter. So yes, it's natural to do that. Obviously, long term, it's not healthy to do that because it is a form of escapism. It's a form of lament for sure, but it is also a form of escapism. And so in the long game, it's not healthy to dwell on that, but I can understand why people do.
Yeah, I absolutely can. And I think just to put another spin on that from the other side of that, I have not experienced that kind of loss. But when we talk about the unrun fraternity, there are other losses that people experience. And so I can understand someone having, a terminal illness or even just we find out you have this disease, anything, did I eat something wrong when I was a kid? Should I not have heated that plastic plate up in the microwave that many times? And now it's, made me, who knows what theories that you can have from that. I remember thinking with my divorce, what if I had responded this way as in our conversations, so that he would be more attracted to me? What if I had parented a little differently in this thing and he wouldn't have been so annoyed with me? Like, there were so many what if moments, because with a divorce, you come to this realization that it has ended a little more slowly, obviously, because there's always hope. That person's still, we've talked about that, the person's still here on earth. And you have this hope that like maybe this will be fixed and reconciled. So you do play the what if game on that side of it to think, if I start acting like this now and maybe talk to that person, will they come around and we can fix this relationship? That I think that is the hope that they have at the beginning, if you are trying to reconcile your marriage. But it does. You're right. It is an escapism. It's a form of escapism, because it's something that I would do just to make myself. Honestly, it made me feel even worse than what I did feel, because I was like, well, I did it wrong. So what if I had done it better, and he would still be around? He still wanted to be married to me. My kids would still have their dad here, and which is, I think, as a person who's gone through a divorce, that's a very, very dark place to go. And it can cycle into insecurities that aren't necessary and aren't true about yourself. And so I would caution our listeners, if that is your story and you are playing that what if game, trying to get your marriage back, or even trying to fix your health and so forth, you're right. You have to trust in the sovereignty of God and lean into Him in those times. But it's very dangerous to get into that lying to yourself phase, where you start telling yourself things that aren't true about who you really are. It's so important to focus on your identity in Christ and who He says you are, and keep that positive outlook, because people are depending on you to raise them. If you have children, that you have this healthy outlook on who you are and who they are and what marriage is supposed to be like and so forth. So yeah. I definitely went through that. I think that doing the what if game can easily spin into being terribly angry. And that was how he ended this chapter, the silent scream of pain. He talked about lashing out in anger, and how that can lead to, it ends up leading to depression and so forth like that, because you just get into this cycle. And I know we've talked about being overly angry. I mean, we've talked about being angry when it comes to your book. You talked about being angry in that and how you should handle that. But he says he had this feeling of wanting to lash out in anger. He said he wanted revenge for the driver of the car. I can imagine that was something you felt as well, but unfortunately for your I wouldn't say unfortunately, that's not the right word. The young man passed away. You couldn't get revenge.
Nope.
But I can't remember. I was trying to think back when we did talk about the situation. Did you feel like you wanted to get revenge on the family? Like, how did that manifest itself in you when you were that angry?
Yeah, I mean, that night when she passed, again, like I said, the house was full of people, and different pockets of the house, it represented different emotions. And so we had silence, we had weeping, we had surprisingly some laughing, some like remembering Leanne and some memories. But then we had we did have a pocket of anger / vengeance, and you nicest people on the planet, and we're talking about someone's got to pay. Like, we just go to that. We go to eye for eye kind of a thing. And when you combine what we've been talking about, when you combine the what ifs with revenge or vengeance, it's a fascinating place to be, because on one hand, you're saying, what if this had never happened? Like, that's the ultimate goal. Let's reverse time and make sure this never happens. But then secondly, you're also saying, but should it happen, I want to play judge and jury. And the reason we do that, the reason Jerry talks about his anger, and in my book I talk about mine, is because we're the ones experiencing the pain. We don't often think of God's heart breaking and God's heart grieving in terms of loss, because we view God as, well, he's sovereign. You know, how does he lose in this? And I want to remind our listeners that the Bible speaks clearly about this intimate relationship that God the Father has with his kids. I don't find any reason why God would not, as he gives us the strength to get through this, understand why we go through what we do. Hebrews talks about Jesus understanding us in all of our trials. And that's why we have the incarnation of God through Jesus, because we get to look at God in the flesh, John 1, and have a degree of, you get me, you understand this. And so why is the Bible full of passages where Jesus weeps, has compassion? You can just read the Gospels and understand, man, Jesus hurt for people. Well, why would he stop hurting for people now, right? I mean, there's still an aspect of, it makes complete sense that Jesus sees you in your pain and also hurts for you in your pain, just as he did when he was on earth. We have the hope of the resurrection. We have the hope of death has no sting, absolutely. But until we get there, there's absolute pain, and I think Jesus is well aware of that and empathizes with us in that. But we don't often see it that way. We see it as, I'm the only one experiencing pain, and therefore I need to do something about it, i.e., enact vengeance on somebody, enact judgment upon someone. And as Jerry knows, as I know, as everyone knows for that matter, it never goes in such a way to where you do that and you feel like the debt has been paid. It's settled now. There's always loss. And while temporarily, because that was the other what if. It's not just what if that accident never happened. It's, what if I could get my hands on this person? What if I got to, be the judge and jury? Like, you play those games as well. You play games of, what if that family's experiencing pain, and if not, how can I help them experience pain? So yeah, it's not godly behavior to spend time dwelling on those things. We see that from the scriptures. That's clear. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. But we do it. And so I don't prescribe it, but I can certainly understand it. But that's where, again, we need to read books like A Grace Disguised. We need to spend time sitting Shiva with people. We need to weep with those who weep, because it's in those moments where you can speak life into someone, you can speak truth into someone when they're about to go off the rails, when they're about to act incredibly ungodly, and God forbid, honestly, act out some of those feelings that are irretrievable. You want to be that person to be able to step into their life and say, hey, I get it, man. I'm right there with you. But let's not let Hollywood dictate the next few moments of our lives, because Hollywood says, oh yeah, go enact vengeance, and everyone's going to understand why. Everyone's going to applaud. Everyone's going to say with mob mentality, yeah, I would have done the same thing. They deserve it, all this stuff. And you're going to walk away scot-free. That's Hollywood. The Bible says no. God says, I am the one in Romans, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Don't let sun go down in your anger, right? Trust in the Lord as you would have before the accident. Continue to trust in his sovereignty, his goodness, his mercy, his justice after the accident. But I understand why it's hard to do.
Right. And I can share from the side of the divorce side. I had, when you're angry at your ex-spouse or soon to be ex-spouse, you can get in a headspace that's very ungodly, and that I'm going to treat him like this. When he calls, I'm going to say these things. And it feels empowering, because if you've, planned out how you're going to speak unkindly to this person or throw all their things out into the front yard, which I've joked about, I did not do, but,
what if all of his stuff was out in the front yard? I mean, we fantasize about that.
Yeah. And just because you feel like you took power away from me because you left, I want power back, and I want to feel justified in my feelings.
Yeah.
But you're right, it isn't godly. But so I remember times thinking those thoughts and being encouraged in those thoughts too. By friends and family to be like, no, you should be angry. You should tell him this. And I do think that there's justification in explaining a truth situation to someone. But I think it is best said when you've taken a moment to take a deep breath and have some self-control over your emotions, because it will be more of a conversation than an attack. No one wants to be attacked.
And that's the other thing I was going to say is, listen, I know people have your best interest at heart, excuse me, but they're caught up in emotions as well. Mm-hmm. And I think as a Christian body, as a church, small c, we do a very poor job of rallying around those in pain with ungodly behavior and advice. And we need to stop that. You have every right to go after him. They should get the worst punishment ever. They deserve to die. I mean, everything. Mm-hmm. And then we justify it by saying, well, I was angry. Well, of course you're angry. Like, we know you're angry. Listen, if one of your loved ones or a close friend or a coworker is going through something tragic, catastrophic, please, please, please come alongside them, sit shiva with them, love on them, weep with them, but please refrain from giving them worldly, humanly, ungodly advice that you're justifying in the heat of the moment because God understands why we would say something like that, even though we know it's not healthy, it's not biblical, it's not godly, but God understands. Stop that. It doesn't help anyone, especially those that are going through loss, because all you're doing is fueling the fire for them to have to stand before God and justify why they did something ungodly. Come alongside them, pray for them, weep with them, give them passages to meditate on. And always feel free to say, I don't know how to talk to you right now. Like, I don't know the words to say. That is more powerful than you think it will be. Just be with them. And again, like I said, so that when they're speaking of doing something volatile or ungodly, you can lovingly step in and just have them reconsider that option with all the stuff we just talked about.
I think the times that I had peace in my anger was when I did get away from all of the other chatter and read the Word of God and to get alone, because I did. I mean, there was just to make you all feel better out there if you are initially going through this. Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're sad, and sometimes you're mad, all at the same moment. And the emotions, especially for a female, are just raging all the time. And I say that because we are more emotional creatures than men at times, and so most of the time. But that's going to happen. But I think having some time set aside, like knowing, like intentionally saying to your brain, like, I need to get away from this. This isn't right. I need to have some time with the Lord. And like going back to what you said, I agree. I do believe the Lord grieves over what we're going through. I remember feeling this just peaceful comfort in the midst of like wanting to. I remember I would take, and I've said this before, I would read the Psalms and I would substitute his name in there, like like David did with the people he was fighting against, just to be like, take him out, Lord. And yet I would feel convicted by that, because he is Imago Dei. He is created in the image of God, and he is my children's father. And ultimately, I want his heart to be right with the Lord. I mean, I want him to have eternity with Christ.
Right.
And yet I was just so angry. But what I love about God being Abba is that I can tell him that, and I can mess up in my quote unquote prayer, my quote unquote reading Psalms of prayer, and the Lord can direct my heart and thoughts back to, but wait, what do I really need to be doing? And so those were times where I did feel like I had a heavenly hug, from the Lord to say, I see,
like that.
You like that heavenly hug. Yeah, that's gonna.
Y'all get your heavenly hug.
Don't make fun of me because I'm Southern.
I think it fits.
But I did. And girls, you know what I'm talking about.
Girl, you need a heavenly hug. I like that.
I love my heavenly hugs from the Lord. But I feel like there were times where I could just like really have that deep breath of peace, because I stopped focusing on my anger and just really got into what God's word said about the situation.
Psalm 34, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, saves those who are crushed in spirit. Like, give me a break. I mean, that is God grieving with you. He's near you. I like what, even if you go back into like Genesis, and I hadn't really thought about this, but remember when like before the flood, why did the flood happen? Genesis 6, the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only continually evil. And the Lord was sorry that he made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. Like, it's just fascinating to me. God is sovereign. He knew it would happen. He allowed it to happen, and he's grieving over that. Like, let's never forget that God hates sin so much. He hates injustice. He hates catastrophic loss, especially when it's due to injustice. But he doesn't just hate it, he grieves. I mean, he looked upon the earth. Can you imagine? Like, I cannot wait to get to heaven. I really hope it's like either a 3D, not a 3D, but like a screen that kind of wraps around, almost like IMAX, or a helmet we get to wear. One of the two. I want it to be immersive, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And I really hope, I mean, heaven's forever, and I really hope that part of that time is spent seeing Adam and Eve up to present. Like maybe you have a dial where you can fast forward or reverse, but like being there, like dropping in on those scenes.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, you want to go experience the time with Adam and Eve.
I want to be there when it really happened.
Really happened. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like
and
present.
So like this is one of those times I want to be there, because I just like, what would it have been like to be the Lord, and the wickedness is so great that the thoughts of his heart in man was only evil continually. And you're God. You're the creator of man. And you grieve over that. Like, you're sorry that you made man on earth. And if you don't, so anyway, and then Psalm 34, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Like, if you don't think that God not only loves you in the good times, but loves you in the catastrophic times. And when I say love, I mean like he's with you, he's near you. Psalm 147, he heals the brokenhearted, binds up their wounds. Like, he is the ultimate healer. He is the ultimate doctor of your soul. Of course he grieves and hates that you're going through what you go through. But as we've talked about on other episodes, and I don't want to get into it today, about free will and free choice and the sin of man, this is the world we're living in, and God is allowing in his sovereignty for things to happen that aren't always good. He's with you nonetheless. Mm-hmm. And he's the same God today, yesterday, and forevermore.
Absolutely. That's very heavy to think through.
Matthew 5, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be what? Comforted. Who's doing the comforting?
The Lord.
The Lord.
Absolutely.
And how is he doing it? By giving you what?
Peace.
Nope.
Hope.
Nope.
Nearness.
Nope. H squared.
Heavenly. He's reaching down and giving you a heavenly hug through his word. I like that.
I wonder if Psalm 147 in the Southern version, he heals the brokenhearted and gives you a heavenly hug.
Don't.
I love it. It's great. It's awesome.
Thanks, Greg. All right. Well, let's wrap up with that thought then, and we'll jump into chapter 5, which is sailing on a sea of nothingness. There's a lot in this next chapter that I want to talk about. And I'm really, I think we're going to get some good conversation out of it, but we'll save that for our next episode. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Unwanted Fraternity. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can go on our website at unwantedfraternity.com and drop us a message. You can always reach us on Instagram and Facebook. Our handle is Unwanted Fraternity. And we just want to leave you with the knowledge that the community is large and the community is here for you, and you never, ever have to walk alone in this journey. We'll see you next time.
Turn on the mic, the static clears. Unwanted brotherhood of tears. Grief can weigh us down alone, but here we find a common home. The voices speak to heart and soul. In darker times they make us whole. Through Jesus' light we find our way. In every night there comes a day. From shadows to the dawn we rise, hope reflected in our on the mic, the static clears. Unwanted brotherhood of tears. Grief can weigh us down alone, but here we find a common home. The voices speak to heart and soul. In darker times they make us whole. Through Jesus' light we find our way. In every night there comes a day. From shadows to the dawn we rise, hope reflected in our eyes.